Okay. I thought they normally do that after everybody's on. Yeah.
And you're live.
Okay. So I think we're live, but we need to stall just a little bit, I'm told by Krista, to account for some time for people to log in on Zoom and people who are in the waiting room. So I'm going to introduce you to Kovu the cat. And Kovu was spent a year at the animal shelter in Lafarge and Viroqua, our county seat. And now he's been here with me for like 8 years or something. Krista, I want to introduce Krista. Say something so people can see you.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, Krista Carter is now in Washington. Are you in Washington, Krista?
Correct.
She is our techno guru at Organic Eye, and I'm so pleased to have her on our team. We don't know where everybody's at because we're, as Fireside Theater once said, how can you be in two places at once when you're not really anywhere at all? And so we're virtually officed and always have been, but our official headquarters are in Washington, D.C. I'm on the farm here in the Kickapoo River Valley on the west coast of Wisconsin. And we're in Vernon County. We're thought to have more organic farmers than any county in the United States. So I'm really in a deep agrarian and food culture, and I'm really happy about that. I eat well and live well and have wonderful neighbors that milk organic cows. So I think I've stalled enough. This is Mark Kastel. I am the, Krista's saying, yes, you've stalled enough. I am the director of Organic Eye. Krista, I'm gonna put that headset on and you can tell me if it sounds worse, because we want to have all the technology lined up here.
The air, is this better, Krista? Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up, thank you. So I'm Mark Kastel, I'm the director of Organic Eye. We are an organic industry watchdog and we're an investigative arm of Beyond Pesticides, our sponsors in Washington, D.C. I'm officially a staff member, and we are a program of Organic Eye, although we have a separate budget and raise our own funds. So thank you to everybody online who's been supporting this work. I want to talk to you today about chemicals, natural chemicals, naturally derived chemicals, synthetic chemicals that can be found in organic food. Is this good or bad? And what do we need to do as eaters and consumers to protect ourselves and our families? And what do we need to do as citizens to protect organics from corporate plunder? So this is just a recap for people who really know this, but prior to the 1990 Farm Bill, when Congress passed the Organic Foods Production Act, there was no federal regulation of the word organic. And a few states had regulations that were very loose and not compatible. And so some of us lobbied during the late 80s to pass that bill to create a level playing field and to placate the concerns of farmers who were concerned about handing our baby off to the federal government, because we know that that can be corrupted by money. Part of the bill created the National Organic Standards Board, the NOSB, a 15-member broad-based body of experts. Congress set aside seats for farmers, for certifiers, for consumer, public interest groups, a couple seats for handlers, for the businesses that process. And one of their responsibilities was to create what's called the National List of Approved Substances. So we knew that everything that went into food couldn't be organic. I'll give you a couple examples. Salt isn't organic. We don't produce it agriculturally. It could be from the sea, it could be mined. And one of the materials that I always like to use is one that's appropriate, in my opinion, and it is opinion-based, based on scientific review, and that's baking powder. There's no such thing as an organic leavening agent. So if we're going to enjoy an organic cupcake with cream cheese frosting, we need some kind of baking powder or leavening agent. And that was reviewed by the National Organic Standards Board. There was no literature indicating that it was dangerous, and it's on the list, and it's stayed on the list since day one of organics. And the law was passed in 1990 because of the foot dragging during the Bush administration. It didn't go into effect until 2002, but it was on the original list, baking powder. It's still on the list. That list gets reviewed every 5 years. And the corporate lobby of the USDA has allowed a much weaker review every 5 years, weaker standard to stay on the list. But nonetheless, these chemicals are all reviewed. There are thousands of chemicals used in conventional food in the United States, some of which have never been reviewed for safety. They were grandfathered in. Some of which are banned in other countries like Europe, in the European Economic Union, European Union, but they're allowed to be used in food here. And how does a new chemical or compound get used in conventional food? It has to get the generally recognized as safe GRAS standard rating from the FDA. And who does that review? The food manufacturers themselves. They do the review, they say it's safe, they tell the FDA, and unless the FDA protests, and they don't have the resources to do the testing, unfortunately, of each item, it goes on the list. But organics has this one extra step, and that's where we have to band together to protect the organic regulatory arena, the National Organic Standards Board, from the corporate takeover, which is happening right now. So the Organic Trade Association, which are the lobbyists that work for the corporate interest in organics, the majority of all NOSB members are either members of the Organic Trade Association, endorsed by them, awarded different Farmer of the Year award or whatever, one way or another, and I should say some of those, all of the above, one way or another, they have an intimate relationship with the lobbyists at the OTA, and that was not how Congress envisioned this. That board was supposed to have organic farmers on it. Now they have employees that work for one representative works for Grimway Farm. You might not know that name, but you might know Bunny Love or Cal Organics. They have 30,000 acres in California. I think they might have production in Mexico too. That's not your average organic farmer. So the decisions they make on that board are greatly influenced by the OTA. And we're really encouraging those people on the board who might be there on good faith to listen to the nonprofits that have spent sometimes a career monitoring this, as opposed to almost strictly listening to the OTA. So let's get down to the nitty gritty here in terms of chemicals. I wanted to use cottage cheese as an example, and we'll hopefully this camera will zoom in on here. This is Westby cottage cheese from Westby, Wisconsin. Yeah, hey, it's very Norwegian here in my county. Back when I was a consultant, I actually worked for them. I don't work for them now, and I don't think they've contributed any money to Organic Eye, although if you're listening, we would welcome your support. But it's a farmer-owned cooperative over 100 years old. And when I was a consultant 20 years ago, I helped them with a couple challenges. They make certified organic cottage cheese. And that's my favorite cottage. You can see that in this house, we eat a lot of dairy products. And this is my favorite cottage cheese. It tastes like the cottage cheese I had that was delivered along with the milk to our home when I was a kid. The interesting thing, I want to read the ingredients here for you. Organic grade A skim milk, organic grade A milk, full whole milk, organic grade A cream, salt, live cultures. That's it. It's all there is. It's milk and culture, and all cheese has some kind of culture in there. Now, you have a choice. Along with Westby, which is distributed in some parts of the Midwest. If you can't get it in your stores, ask your store to check with the distributor. It's great stuff. But wider distribution would be for Kelowna, Supernatural, Good Culture, Nancy's Yogurt from the Pacific Northwest, and Wegmans, which is a grocery chain based in New York, Pennsylvania area. I happen to know all those brands, and they're all buying from organic family farmers, not from these big CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations, or factory farms. And so they're all good choices. None of that, all of them use strictly dairy products and culture, the way we've always made cheese. The next, maybe lower down on your choice here in the supermarket, are the most widely available brands, and that would be Organic Valley and Horizon. They add organic gar gum and organic locust bean gum. I'm not sure if the locust bean gum in Horizon is organic. I have to check, but I think they're organic in both. So these are binding agents, coagulants. They help keep the whey from separating. You'll see a little milky in the dairy business for cottage cheese. We call that the dressing, the liquid that's in with the small little cheese curds. And I pour that off, and Kovu, the cat down here, loves drinking it, but you can use that in your cooking. Don't waste it. Or if you like a moister cottage cheese, just stir that in. But if they add the gar gum or locust bean gum or other compounds, it might keep that separation from happening. But I don't think you need that in your diet. And some of those agents have been proven to be not only dangerous for human health or carcinogenic. There's no research that gar gum or locust bean gum is dangerous, but I don't think there's much research on it, period. The third brand in that category, and that's Whole Foods, their 365 store brand, that contains agar, which is, again, used for that same purpose. It's conventional. It's not an organic ingredient. And I want my food as organic as possible. Thank you, farmers and workers at Westby Creamy. Now, the bottom of the list, these are certified organic products. The first comes from a company I know. It's a great company. If I was in Northern California, the Bay Area, they're the leading brand of organic milk, and that's Clover Stornetta. It's a family-owned firm. I know many of their farmers. I worked with them over the years. Some are Organic IM members. And I will be writing their chief executive a letter suggesting that they reevaluate their formulation. Not only does it have organic locust bean gum, which might be okay, it has carrageenan. And so does Trader Joe's store brand. And so this is my segue into dangerous compounds in organics. Organics should be the last safe haven when we shop for our families and our children. We don't want to do chemistry experiments. So carrageenan is a derivative of seaweed. It's, although highly processed, it's a natural compound. That doesn't make it safe. There are some naturals that are banned in organics. The National Organic Standard Board, first I should go back to the law. All synthetics are banned unless they're reviewed and approved by the NOSB. And all naturals are legal in organics unless they are specifically banned by the NOSB. And if an organic option is available, it has to be organic. You can't add non-organic items if if organic milk powder is available, you can't add that. And that's one of the reasons things get taken off the list, is they were on there originally, but now somebody's created an organic version of gar gum, and now you can't use conventional. So carrageenan comes from seaweed. And the leading researcher on carrageenan, Joanna Tobachman, who's a MD at the University of Illinois Medical Center in Chicago, has done testing on laboratory animals. Not only is this a potent inflammatory agent, how many people know someone with inflammatory bowel disease, spastic colon, irritable bowel disease, Crohn's disease? These are all intestinal diseases, and to test anti-inflammatory drugs, they use non-food grade carrageenan. But Dr. Tobachman used the same food grade carrageenan and fed that to laboratory animals, and it caused inflammation, which is a precursor to cancerous growth. And carrageenan is thought to be a potential carcinogen. I don't want that in my food. I used to think it was great years ago because it was natural. And we lobbied the National Organic Standards Board. It took 10 years of my appearing and arguing. When we first discovered the research on this, we went to the National Organic Standards Board, and then the scientist on the board said she knew better than everybody else. She worked for the largest certifier in the United States, CCOF, and CCOF is a major contributor and member of the Organic Trade Association. She said they had to have carrageenan. We couldn't make these foods without it. Remember, no carrageenan. 5 years later, she wasn't on the board any longer, and we were able to convince the board to take it off. And then USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue during the Trump administration overruled the NOSB. It's still on the list. That's why Clover Stornetta, or Clover Sonoma, now they changed their name, and Trader Joe's still legally can use it. But almost every other company has taken it out of their formulation, and I will be contacting the CEOs at both of those firms. And if you're customers of either brand, I would encourage you to contact them. You control the money, and they'll listen to you. Two other items I want to suggest that you be concerned about that are being legally used in organics today. One is a DHA, it's a kind of omega-3 family oil derived from algae, genetically mutated algae produced in laboratories and factories. It's from it was originally developed by a company called Martech. They were bought out by a giant Dutch conglomerate that supplies all kinds of food ingredients called DSM. The problem with the research is almost all of it was conducted by the industry itself, which says that eating algae is great to get omega-3s in our body, because the fish that we know are high in omega-3 fatty acids, we eat way too many omega-6 fatty acids and not enough 3. So we're imbalanced, very unhealthy dynamic. So fish in your diet, excellent. Grass-fed dairy products, grass-fed meats, that's where you get natural DHA. But the problem is the research, when I reviewed it a few years ago when this went on the national list, it didn't really indicate that if humans ate algae, which has never really been a part of our diet, that we metabolize it and create DHA oil the same way the fish do. The other problem is that they're adding it to infant formula, and there were adverse reaction reports on babies that had very serious problems early in their life after switching to a infant formula with DHA. Most infant formulas now have DHA, conventional and organic. One that I know of that never has is called Babies Only. It's an organic option. There might be other organic options without DHA. Look for that on the label. But again, the lobbyists from the corporations and the Organic Trade Association tend to have more power in Washington than the eaters and the farmers have, and we're out to change that balance. And the last example I want to use is celery powder. Celery powder. I loved celery powder. Back when I was a kid, I had hot dogs and you put celery powder with all the different ingredients on it. But this celery powder that's used in organic food is not just celery powder that comes from the McCormick company that you buy in your grocery store. It's supercharged to be really high in nitrogen. So they're using that when you buy cured meats, or when you buy luncheon meats, they're going to say uncured. And they're going to say no nitrates added or uncured, whether it's organic or conventional. They're using celery powder. And what they're doing is they're breeding plants. Celery, some plants naturally uptake compounds in the soil very readily. We know that rice can take up arsenic, which is a problem. And it's why kids that eat a lot of rice you have to be cautious, diversify your diet. But celery is very adept at taking up nitrogen from the soil. So they breed the plants to take up as much nitrogen, and then they grow them conventionally with copious amounts of nitrogen applied to the soil. And celery powder is on the national list of approved substances for organics. The problem is that the celery powder creates the byproduct is nitrosamines, which is a carcinogen. That's why they've warned people not to have too many processed or cured meats in their diets. And it doesn't matter whether it's organic or conventional, those processed meats still create a health risk. Fresh meat is in its own category. And so we and others have expressed a concern about this. The answer from the Organic Trade Association and some of their cohorts is to invest money in research, including federal money, but corporate donations, and seeing how we can develop a certified organic celery powder. Now on the list of ingredients, they wouldn't just say celery powder, they'd say certified organic celery powder. What problem did that solve? Well, there's 10 acres of specialized celery powder, which right now has chemicals applied, pesticides applied. That will become organic. That's a good thing. But now we'll have, in essence, a certified organic carcinogen in our products. So the real answer is to buy fresh meat. And if you want to buy roast beef, you better buy it, you better roast it yourself and slice it. If you want to buy sausages, buy a brand that doesn't list celery powder or any other preservative, and you find in the freezer. And then that means if you thaw it, you need to eat it in a reasonable time, just like if you were eating fresh meat. I really was remiss. Krista, you have to scold me. You've scolded me before, but I didn't say this at the beginning. If you have a question, you can submit it right now by using the chat feature if you're watching on Zoom, or the comments below the video if you're watching on Facebook. And so I'll stall just for a second. If you have a question, you can ask one. I want to say that, and we'll promote this later and we'll send everybody a reminder, but these videos are archived. So if you can't make it, if you're listening to me right now, that means you did make it. But if you can't make it, it'll be available later on our Facebook page under videos, if you click on the hot dog or whatever the menu is to get the video, and on the Organic Eye YouTube channel. And most people watch on Facebook or live on Zoom, but some people go to that archive. And so if you think there's anything valuable we've discussed here today, I would ask you to share the Facebook posting with the video, share that video with your friends and family. If you receive the email announcement, if you're one of our members or followers on our email list, you can forward that email to your friends and write a note that it's archived on YouTube and Facebook. And so I want to say there's two ways you can keep connected with us if you're watching this video and you're not already connected, and that's donate any amount in support of our work at organici.org. We'd be honored to have you as a member. And if you're not ready to do that, we would welcome you if you want to sign up for the electronic news list. It's free, and you can do that at organici.org as well. If you aren't following us on Facebook, some people like Facebook, some people don't, please consider doing that. That kind of ups our exposure out there, and share our material with your friends. So Krista, do we have any questions at this point?
There was a question asking, what about items like Beyond Meat?
Beyond Meat. That's a good question. First of all, I want to emphasize, none of those meat analogs that I know of are organic. Many are made with certified organic, many are made with genetically engineered ingredients. They're made in laboratories. Some of the base material has never been a part of the human diet before. So there very little agriculture involved. We respect people's dietary choices at Organic Eye, whether you're a vegan, vegetarian, whether you keep kosher or halal, whether it's for perceived health reasons or spiritual or philosophical reasons. We respect your choices, and you deserve the very best food. I'm not convinced that these imitation meats are the very best food. When you see, be very careful, when you see plant-based advertised, that doesn't necessarily mean the traditional vegetarian food that we've always eaten as a culture. And I eat meat, I'm an omnivore. I only eat organic meat, and not even organic's good enough. It has to be 100% grass finished. I get grass milk cheese from Organic Valley. I get local, fresh, unpasteurized organic milk that's 100% grass here from my county. I make my own yogurt. Maple Hill, there's a number of other brands that have 100% grass. So that's even above organic. But if you go out and get a walnut burger, which is made by a local hotel and restaurant here, Trumpelow Hotel, that's made out of plant-based materials. Some of these materials are they're not just processed, they're ultra processed, that they don't really resemble food in terms of their molecular structure very closely. And in terms of the nutritional compounds, if you look at nutritional facts, they're not necessarily healthy. So I will leave at this point everybody to make their own judgment about that. But we are in the process of doing research we've received funding for to examine some of the comparisons between real meat and these imitations, and some of the elements that we've always eaten. I love Indian food. I cook a couple Indian dishes with chickpeas or garbanzo beans. The Indians call that chana. That's a protein for a meal. You don't need meat at every meal. My suggestion is Americans should be eating at least half as much meat. We made too much meat as a society, and paying twice as much for it. We should be buying great meat. It also means the animals are treated respectfully while they're on this planet. We're responsible for how they are treated. They can either be in a factory confinement and tortured their entire lives, or out on grass on this farm living a really nice cow life. Krista, do we have any other comments or questions? Okay, we don't have anything else right now. We always
really quickly, what about like the Miyoko's cheeses, plant-based cheeses?
I'm having a hard problem hearing you. I'm not sure how to go a little slower.
I said the other question is about the like Miyoko's cheeses, the plant-based cheeses.
Plant-based cheeses. I'll be honest, I have never looked at the ingredients of a plant-based cheese, and I've never eaten one. I'm really addicted to cheese. That might not be all good, but I am healthy and my weight's good. So I will have to leave that to the judgment of others. If a lot of the imitation cheeses are made out of soy, There are some concerns about soy in the human diet. That has never been a traditional food item outside of some Asian countries where it's traditionally fermented and used as a condiment, so not large amounts of it. So I don't really have a good answer for you. I think there are very few, if any, certified organic cheese analogs available out there. But if there are, send me an email and I will check them out and maybe report back later. If anybody has any follow-up questions after we're done, you're certainly welcome to send an email or use the comment feature on Facebook. Are we done yet?
One last sort of individual question. If you are still working with cornucopia in any indirect way.
I heard something about cornucopia. Try that again. Your audio is terrible.
If you are still working
with
cornucopia in any way.
No. They decided I should retire a few years ago, and then cut our co-director and co-founder Will Fantle. Will and I had run the operation for 17 years. They cut Will out of the decision-making process, and now there's no one there who has any long-term production agriculture experience or dairy industry experience. They will not be our enemies, I can assure you. The people there involved are good people who believe in organics. And so the question is where the experience lies. And I've been involved in organics for 35 years and doing in the commercial end, policy end for 30 of those years. I farmed for a few years in addition, and I'm very proud of the knowledge of our staff. I'm proud of my colleagues at Beyond Pesticides who've been doing this for 40 years. And we'd be really proud to also have you on our team if you decide to join and support this effort.
There is another question. If you can comment on the recent lawsuit filed against Vital Farms.
I'm not familiar with that lawsuit. If you want to comment quickly on what the basis of it is, Vital Farms got in trouble, and they got in trouble with me a few years ago because they were purporting that their eggs were all on pasture. I don't call what Vital Farms or Hansenbrook is another big brand, or Egg Innovations has Blue Sky. I don't call that pasture. They're in fixed houses. They have a lot more pasture surrounding these houses. I call that enhanced outdoor access. And I believe they represent what most people think organics is. When I visited hen houses of that nature, and I visited many, they end up with 30 to 50% of their birds going outside. When I visit the standard organic egg hen house, whether it has 1,000 birds or 20,000 birds, 1 to 3% are outside commonly. If it's 10%, it's really, really an aberration. And then the biggest egg brands, their birds are never outside. They have concrete porches that a couple birds go out on, but they're never on grass. But a few years ago, when they were low on eggs, we found, in fact, let me correct myself. It was not Vital Farms. I want to apologize. It was Hansenbrook. And they were buying eggs that were organic, but they weren't pasture raised and putting them in the cartons. Since then, they were sold. There's new ownership. We monitored them for a while. I worked with their auditors, their financial auditors, to make sure I was getting all their egg purchases. And so the last time I looked, they were clean. Did the person follow up, Krista, with? Okay, so I'm not familiar with the lawsuit. I will look it up because I will be very interested. Vital Farms has changed hands. Matt O'Hare was the founder. They brought in investment bankers and venture capitalists while they grew the business, but they now, an equity group has bought them out. I don't know if Matt has anything to do with them at all any longer. He had his payday, as a lot of organic entrepreneurs do. And that's why we have corporate control of most of these brands. So I will check it out. But the real pastured eggs, you can find real pastured eggs. And that's where they rotate the chicken coop in the field. And all the birds have access to fresh grass during the season every day. They're not living in their own excrement. They're richer, more nutritious eggs. The birds are living a nicer life. Mine come from St. Bridget's Meadows, which distributes eggs here in my community, and in La Crosse, the big city of 50,000 on the Mississippi close to me. But go to the farmer's market and find the people who are truly doing pasture. But one important caveat, make sure they're feeding certified organic feed, because these chickens are not ruminants. God didn't design them to live solely on grass. And they only, according to Joel Salatin, my friend out in Virginia, and I visited his farm, we're really only talking about 10% with the best practitioner of pasture. He literally wrote the book on it. 10% during the summer comes from fresh grass, 90% from stored grain. So birds have evolved to eat seeds and grain and insects and some grass. But if somebody says I'm beyond organic, but they're not using certified organic feed, don't buy the eggs. Anything else, Krista? Are we ready to go? Okay. I want to thank everybody for their attention. I want to thank Krista Carter for being the ringmaster here. God knows I need a lot of controlling. Good luck to you, Krista, on future broadcasts. You can catch this on the rebroadcast if you missed any of it on our Facebook page or the Organic Eye YouTube channel. And thank you for caring enough to invest in organic food. And thank you for protecting your families and your communities, the farmers and the farm workers' health by the decisions you make. And your commitment to be here today illustrates that. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.